They mistook the CEO and a single dad for a couple, but she did not correct them. The bright morning sun poured through the tall glass windows of the city's largest children's hospital, painting warm patches of golden light across the polished floor. Parents hurried through the halls carrying balloons, flowers, and hope, while doctors and nurses moved with calm determination. In the middle of that ordinary morning, one simple misunderstanding would quietly change two broken lives forever. What began as an innocent mistake would become a story about healing, sacrifice, and a family that neither of them had ever expected to find. Before we begin, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that love sometimes arrives in the most unexpected ways, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories that touch hearts around the world. 34-year-old Nathaniel Brooks had spent the last 5 years raising his little daughter alone. Ever since his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, every sunrise had become another promise he silently made to his daughter, Rosie, that she would never feel alone. He worked as a freelance furniture restorer, accepting whatever jobs came his way. Some months were comfortable, while others forced him to count every dollar before buying groceries. Yet no matter how exhausted he became, Rosie always saw the same gentle smile waiting for her when she woke each morning. That particular Tuesday began like every other. Nathaniel packed Rosie's lunch, braided her curly hair the best he could after watching dozens of online tutorials, and walked her to school under the clear blue sky. Rosie had inherited her mother's cheerful heart. Even after everything they had lost, she still believed every stranger deserved a smile. Nathaniel often wondered if children were born carrying pieces of heaven inside them. Across the city, Vivian Sterling, the 38-year-old CEO of Sterling Innovations, sat silently in the back seat of her luxury car. To the world she was powerful, respected, and admired. Business magazines regularly placed her among the country's most influential women. Thousands of employees depended upon her decisions every day. Yet behind the expensive suit and confident reputation hid a woman carrying invisible wounds. Years of building an empire had left little room for friendships, relationships, or family. Success had filled her calendar but emptied her heart. That morning, instead of attending another board meeting, Vivian had cancelled every appointment. She had received news that her elderly mentor, the woman who had believed in her before anyone else did, had been admitted to the children's hospital while visiting her grandson. Vivian wanted to surprise her with flowers and spend a quiet hour together away from the endless pressure of business. Fate has an unusual way of introducing people at the exact moment they need one another. Nathaniel arrived at the same hospital carrying Rosie in his arms after receiving an urgent phone call from school. Rosie had suffered a severe allergic reaction during lunch. Although the doctors quickly stabilized her, Nathaniel's heart refused to slow down. Watching his daughter connected to monitors reminded him too painfully of the hospital room where he had once said goodbye to his wife. Hours later, Rosie had recovered enough to color pictures while waiting for discharge papers. Nathaniel stepped into the hallway to buy juice from the vending machine. At the same moment, Vivian walked around the corner carrying flowers and accidentally dropped several important documents from her leather folder. Without hesitation, Nathaniel knelt and gathered every page before the hospital's air conditioning scattered them across the corridor. He handed them back with a warm smile, expecting nothing more than a polite thank you. Neither of them realized dozens of curious eyes had quietly witnessed the moment. Rosie suddenly ran toward Nathaniel with a drawing in her tiny hands and hugged his leg tightly. She looked at Vivian with innocent curiosity before offering her the colorful picture she had just finished drawing. It showed 3 smiling stick figures holding hands beneath a bright yellow sun. Several nearby nurses exchanged amused smiles. One elderly volunteer laughed softly before saying how wonderful it was to see such a loving young family supporting one another. For a brief second, silence filled the hallway. Nathaniel opened his mouth to explain that there had been a misunderstanding. But before he could speak, Vivian simply smiled. She never corrected them. Nathaniel glanced at her with surprise, expecting embarrassment or discomfort. Instead, she accepted the drawing from Rosie with unexpected tenderness. Something about the little girl's innocent trust reached a place inside Vivian that years of corporate success had never touched. The misunderstanding continued throughout the morning. A nurse complimented Nathaniel for staying so calm while supporting his wife. Another staff member commented that Rosie clearly had inherited both of her parents' kindness. Each time, Nathaniel prepared to explain. Each time, Vivian gently changed the subject. Not because she wanted to deceive anyone, but because, for the first time in years, hearing herself quietly included in the word family felt strangely comforting. Nathaniel eventually discovered why. While sitting together outside the hospital garden waiting for discharge paperwork, he noticed Vivian staring silently at children playing beneath the sunshine. Her confident expression disappeared, replaced by unmistakable loneliness. Without asking intrusive questions, Nathaniel simply listened as she slowly shared pieces of her story. Years earlier she had been engaged to marry the man she believed would spend forever beside her. As her company grew, his jealousy grew even faster. He eventually left, accusing her of loving her business more than people. After that heartbreak, Vivian buried herself in work until promotions replaced birthdays and board meetings replaced family dinners. Success had become the safest place to hide from disappointment. Nathaniel understood that feeling better than anyone. He explained how losing his wife had convinced him that loving someone deeply always came with unbearable risk. Every day since then had been dedicated entirely to Rosie because he feared opening his heart again. Two strangers sat beneath warm daylight sharing truths they had never spoken aloud to anyone else. Rosie interrupted their quiet conversation by placing a small daisy she had picked from the hospital garden into Vivian's hand. The little flower cost nothing. Yet Vivian treasured it more than every expensive award displayed inside her office. Sometimes healing begins with gestures too small for the world to notice. Over the next several weeks, fate continued bringing them together. Vivian quietly arranged for Sterling Innovations to sponsor new pediatric equipment for the hospital after witnessing how overwhelmed many families were by medical expenses. Nathaniel volunteered on weekends helping renovate the children's playroom using donated materials. Neither expected to see the other again. Yet somehow they always did. Rosie quickly became the invisible bridge connecting two lonely adults. She insisted Vivian attend her school art exhibition. She proudly introduced Vivian as her very special friend. Even then, Vivian never corrected anyone who assumed something more. Not because appearances mattered. Because somewhere deep inside, she had begun hoping those assumptions might someday become